When I came there, so in the US, I was doing consultancy for Nissan. And so in Turkey, they have a very similar situation than here. They have about maybe 2% market share, and they're a bit in the shade of some of the other also Japanese manufacturers. Most people still were spending most of their marketing dollars offline. They put most of their marketing dollars online, and they didn't get any traction. So I analyzed with their data, is there any effect of Facebook engagement on test drive? There was none. So I'm saying, well, either the message is wrong or the people that engage with you on Facebook are not in the market for cars. And so that helped us to dig deeper.
Welcome to International Business Today, where we discuss the most critical issues in international business with top academic experts and thought leaders. I'm Paula Kellegery, a professor in the International Business and Strategy Group at Northeastern University's mckim School of Business, the sponsor of this podcast. Today we have an exciting episode. We're talking about the latest trends in digital marketing, and we're very fortunate to have one of the world's leading experts to talk about it. Koen Pauwels. Koen is a distinguished professor of marketing here at Northeastern University, where he co-directs the Digital Analytics, Technology, and Automation, also known as the Data Initiative. Koen, welcome to International Business Today.
Happy to be here.
It's such an exciting topic, right? Digital marketing. There's so much going on now with AI and technology changes. What are some of the latest trends in digital marketing?
Well, one of the latest trends happened to be connected TV and also retail media. And so that's my focus in this year. I do want to go back, though, and basically say that digital marketing is a part of marketing. And that's the field I fell in love with, actually, on an international exchange in Ireland now in 1993. And the fundamentals of human behavior hasn't changed. So marketers still want to truly understand their customer. They want to reach the customer when and how the consumer wants to be reached. They want to develop products that address the pain points and the possibilities. Digital marketing is different because it has given us as marketers, but also consumers, so many different ways to get informed about products, to figure out what the brand community is like, to read reviews, and to be very much in touch, not just with brands and products, but specifically with the other consumers. And digital marketers have to amplify this and to ensure that their voice is heard in this marketplace.
Really interesting. So it's really the fundamentals of marketing, but taken into a digital space. But what are some of the changes or the trends that you're seeing? What's coming next?
Okay, so I'll give you one example of retail media that I'm very much involved with. So when you go into an offline store, as a consumer, you may not realize that everything on the shelf is optimized for the retailer. Some of you may complain, why do I have to go all the way to the back to find the milk? Well, that's intentional. The retailer wants you to walk by other places, maybe get interested in other products. The retailer is also paid by manufacturers to see what's on your eye level on the shelf, for instance. You know, what is in your checkout counter. Online, that is just way more structured and more transparent. So a lot of retailers have now said, well, the margins are very thin. We can basically guide our customers towards certain information. And let's make this all digital. So in digital marketing, in retail, we see that there's a sponsored choice, for instance, and that also manufacturers can use not just at what we call the end of the funnel when you're about to make a purchase, but also to get awareness and consideration of brands. So that's one key area.
Oh, really? Could you tell us more, share an example of that? Because that's such a fascinating area.
So the website where most U.S. consumers start their product search is Amazon, and so Amazon advertising has been starting really what they call sponsored products. So when you're a consumer browsing through the virtual aisle of coffee, which coffee brands do you see? They have then kind of went up funnel towards sponsored brands that you can showcase your whole brand with several products with the style that your brand wants. And then going to, for instance, connected TV, where you can really get awareness for your new products. And so that whole full funnel is now available online. So I think it was Ogilvy who said you can never build a brand online, you have to go offline. And I think that's no longer true. There's so many wonderful brands that are, digital natives and have also grew. They also grew through digital marketing, using some of these newer tools.
That's really so fascinating. So is digital marketing right now, is there different trends in different industries? Are you seeing or different trends for different product types?
They are. So there's, so from the very beginning, and so I did my PhD in the 90s in UCLA when the first internet hype was really coming on. And so from the beginning, you see the difference between things that you can actually also get online versus not. So if we're talking about information, music, things that are visual that you can right away download, the marketing for those kind of products is going to be different because you can really purchase and enjoy them right away online. Digital marketing has also been very successful for products that you may just search for online and then buy in a physical store or have delivered to you. And so a lot of the excitement now, I mean, with the pandemic, we had, for instance, online grocery that really came up. One of my research projects, we showed that across the whole world, it was the people over 65 years old that before were more reluctant to be online, to get exposed to digital marketing also, that are now have learned that they can do it, thanks to having to do it, and that are now seeing the benefits of that over, having to leave the house, getting in transportation, finding parking. So we see that those products and services that are also delivered online always have kind of a strong presence in digital marketing, but we're seeing much more now for products where online is just part of the search experience, and that a lot of consumers also go to offline stores or connect with offline friends to talk about it.
That's right. So do you have an example of that? A client or a company?
Oh, I'll give you two examples. I'll give you one poor example and one good example. Going back to, and this is now literally the year 1998, but that tells you how much distribution has changed. So we were interested in the Palm Pilot. For those of you younger in the audience, if you remember that one. So we saw our MBA
It's a
students.
language, right?
Yeah, and so this was before you had, smartphones and so forth. This was something really cool that people whipped out and could do things with. And so at that moment, I was doubting between the 3 and the 5, again in 1998. And one of them had more functionality, but was heavier than the other one. And even then, I did all my search online. I compared prices. I compared what people said about it. There were these online communities. The only thing I couldn't do online was to weigh them in my hand and in my pocket. And so I went to then Circuit City and I said, hey, you have the display here I saw online. Can I weigh them? And the salesperson was like, yeah, but these are just the plastic replicas. They're not the real thing. And so I left the store saying, well, you guys are on your way out because the one thing that I still need you for offline, you couldn't do. And they were bankrupt a few years later.
Sure.
But so that's an example of a poor integration.
That's a great example, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just such a great example because the one thing that they could still do well is the touch and the feel of the product, and they fell down on that one.
Yeah. So one of the newer examples. So we are, one of the exciting things right now. So I'm working with Amazon, which has Thursday Night Football. And so we are seeing a lot of products there, being digitally advertised that you can buy on Amazon.com. So there's a lot of awareness, a lot of engagement with people also there that are just kind of, it's a nice audience to reach. If your audience of you as a digital marketer overlaps with the people walking Thursday Night Football. I happen to have to do it because I get into our Northeastern Fantasy Football League. They got me into it. And so I actually won my very first year, purely luck.
Are you an American football fan?
Well, partly, right? But I know a lot
now.
less than the other, but I make it really easy. And so I was watching because of the games, but also because I got interested in the players. And so that was just a very nice way to then, as a digital marketer, right, get to audiences that otherwise you wouldn't be able to reach with other means.
That's interesting. I remember years ago at my former university, the marketing faculty used to have a party at every Super Bowl, and we would sit around and watch the trends that are different in digital marketing across countries.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, really?
And I'll give you an example, right? So I'm originally from Belgium, moved to the States, loved New England. So my first job where I got tenure was Dartmouth, the Tug School of Business. And then I left for Istanbul in Turkey. Actually, the way I learned how to drive in Istanbul is really helping me here in Boston. So there's some similarities there. But when I came there, so in the US, I was doing consultancy for Nissan. And so in Turkey, they have a very similar situation than here. They have about maybe 2% market share, and they're a bit in the shade of some of the other also Japanese manufacturers. So when I came to Turkey 2008, Turkey was the third biggest Facebook country in the world. They had, the third highest after the US and the UK, the number of accounts. And so Nissan was very proud, even though they only had 2% market share. They had I think the number 2 automobile Facebook page and had so much engagement and so forth. The only problem was that they didn't get any more sales. So they said, look, we follow the advice of digital marketers, right? We follow our consumers. So in a time where most people still were spending most of their marketing dollars offline, they put most of that marketing dollars online and they didn't get any traction. And so I sat them down and I said, well, what is the one most important thing that you need to get people to buy a car? And I said, test drives. By the way, so I'm an engineer by training, so I look at anything as input, throughput, output. So I'm like, you do stuff with your digital marketing. You want a certain results like donations or sales, but what can we measure in between? And they said test drives, if we get people on a test drive. So I analyzed with their data, is there any effect of Facebook engagement on test drive? There was none. So I'm saying, well, either the message is wrong or the people that engage with you on Facebook are not in the market for cars. And so that helped us to dig deeper. And so I felt that was really interesting. And so my first book, at that time was called "It's Not the Size of the Data, It's How You Use It," because
Great title.
I thought that the thinking was much more important than using big data. I think most companies, and this is all the 3 continents that I consulted for, they don't really make good use of the small data they already have. And a lot of that has to do with organizational barriers. So my book this year is Break the Wall, How to Democratize Digital in Your Business. And there we teamed up with an organization behavior professor here at Northeastern to really look at what is it in your organization that allows you to make best use of data, that the digital marketers talk to business leaders and really understand what the purpose of the business is, and then how their actions can feed into that.
Let's talk about this. So we'll definitely put a link to your book. When's the book coming out? Is it already out?
It is just out.
Just out. Okay, we'll definitely put that in the show notes. But also, let's talk a little bit more about that strategy. Like, what advice are you giving individuals who are reading your book or clients about how to put together their digital marketing strategy?
So it all starts, with any marketing, right? The fundamentals of human behavior are the same. So you need to understand who your target customers are, and from that you can devise a certain strategy. So it's wonderful that every year we have something new in marketing, right? So that keeps at least me young. So we have new kind of arrows in our arsenal, let's say. But then we really have to be clear about what the goal is. I'll give you an example. A collaboration I had with Poonam Keller was really in better marketing for a better world. So we were helping people raising awareness for certain hospitals or certain issues, and we found something really interesting there. So if you're, for instance, a hospital that tries to get awareness for an issue or to get action for an issue, there's very different strategies and digital channels you can use. So if you think about social media, right? Social media is great to kind of, let's say, raise awareness for getting colonoscopies or mammograms, but it's not very good to get people to actually take the step and actually schedule a doctor's visit. And so there's other channels that you can use for that purpose. So I think really understanding your target customers, how they want to be reached, and in what way is very important. I think digital marketing is also great to connect with your current customers. And so when I joined the PhD, relationship marketing was a big thing. I don't know if you heard about it. But so it was all customers want to have a relationship with companies. And you see that in a lot of digital marketing, the daily emails we get. And I'm like, no, I don't want to have a relationship with my car mechanic. So just understanding the frequency that even your existing customers want to be contacted with you. And so because digital marketing typically is less costly to you as a firm, right? It costs virtually nothing to send a customer an email. It has become even more important to understand, what is the best frequency? When do people get annoyed? And
What
actually,
is the best
yeah.
frequency? So they don't just
So that really depends. So one of the current project I'm in is the first time that we look at digital billboards. And so there we actually find, so the billboards that you pass through, for instance, in your commute, they're not digital. So with geolocation data, we can now perfectly track who was close to it and how many times they were exposed to it. And so you put them on and off. So the cool thing there is you can actually track, and then later on when people search for the brand that you were promoting, we had a very nice puppy commercial a few months ago, and so we see that it takes a while because of course people are in their cars, but then they go online. And the more they're exposed, up to 14 exposures, they're more likely to search, and then it declines. So if you get overexposed, you're probably thinking, oh, this is just horrible. I'm constantly bombarded with the information. You're actually less likely to check out information about the product or service than if you're only exposed 14 times.
So 14 is the magic number for digital billboards. What about for those emails? Because everyone, and now with the ChatGPT, these things can be constructed so easily and sent so easily that I'm getting them all the time, and I'm sure I'm not the only person just deleting them.
Yeah.
Is there a magic number there?
It really depends on the customers. I'll give you a specific example. We did this research for L'Occitane en Provence, which has lots of wonderful offline stores, and they change their assortment relatively often. So they constantly feel the need to inform customers about this. Now, we got data about 6 countries, including Italy, US, UK, France, and we had data about which kind of customer you were before. So did you buy very infrequently? Did you buy frequently but not high in what we call monetary value? Did you buy very frequently? Are you both a frequent and a very strong kind of dollar customer, right? And then we also had prospects and dormants. So prospects are people who never bought with L'Occitane before. Dormants were people who used to buy and hadn't bought for at least a year. So we did this analysis across all the countries, and I'll talk to you about the country difference in a moment. But what was really interesting that L'Occitane mostly has expensive direct mail and has emails. And they used to send the direct mail to their best customers and the email to prospects and dormants.
Okay.
And it makes sense to them because they're like, this is our best or most expensive thing. We're going to send this to you as our best customers. So when we looked at the response, we found the opposite. We found that if you hadn't bought with L'Occitane for a while, then you would just delete the email. It was irrelevant to you, right? And we're so used to doing that now. But if you got a direct mail and it was beautiful and you're like, oh, wow, I haven't been there for a while. All of the new product assortment looks interesting.
They miss me. They love me.
Yes, they miss me. They love me. And so we basically told them to flip it around. And they did a field experiment in Italy. And they actually showed that our model predictions rang true. And so we really kind of changed around how that they addressed the customers. And so that paper actually got a practice prize in marketing science. And it was just a wonderful cooperation.
It's a great finding.
Yeah.
Really important one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and then, in terms of cross-country differences, so we found a bigger difference between what kind of customer you are than in which country you lived.
Oh, really?
The major driver was like they were interested in their online and offline sales. And the extent to which online sales were pretty much the norm in the country, that was very important. So if you happen to live in Italy versus the US, what extent that you would react to their marketing by actually buying online versus going to their store, that was very much country dependent. But just the fact that you reacted to their marketing, that was much more dependent on what kind of customer you are than on where you lived.
Oh, that's such good stuff. Koen, what about sort of all the changes that we're starting to see from like the just AI and the artificial intelligence that's out there? Are you seeing that affecting kind of traditional marketing?
It is a lot. And so I'm very excited about it. I'm also a bit of a skeptic of some things. The book that I just finished reading, it's called It's Smart Until It's Dumb, about epic fails of AI, which I highly recommend. It's a short book. But so what I see happening is that AI is used a lot for product recommendations and for basically linking you to people who are just similar to you in your preferences, which I think is very valuable. What I find interesting is that to what extent does the AI get so good, and specifically do consumers trust the AI enough? For me, AI right now is making a short list among all the thousands of options, give me 5 things I should choose from. And many of the things we saw online, they work that way. So online retailers present you options, and yes, you can scroll down, but the AI is so that it's optimized for you, and you trust that yes, these 6 or 7 options are great, but I still, as a human, want to choose between them. And so I'm fascinated by one is the switch that we say, okay, here is my short list, you choose for me. And we already do that, for instance, in music. So if you look at, in Spotify, right, we have certain preferences, but we want them to recommend the music because we don't trust ourselves to really kind of be out there experiencing new music. But if you leave it to me, I'm just listening to 80s and 90s music. So I think kind of to what extent will consumers trust the AI enough to do that? As somebody who consults marketer, my dream has always been kind of a digital assistant also to a marketer. And so I always like to give voice input in, right? Talking about ChatGPT, for instance,
Right,
I still have to
right.
type. I want to give voice input in, and then I want, with the headset, with the metaverse, I want the AI to become that consumer for me. So if I was going to say, hey, in Bocconi, I want to have a certain fashion, fashion forward customer, the AI should basically get the avatar in front of me that looks and talks like that customer so that I can interact with him or her and I can basically do that research, which is, it's still not as good as actually talking physically to the consumer, I find, but it is the next best thing. And so I'm really kind of looking forward to the AI being kind of that precise. And I don't think we're that far away from these kind of experiences.
And is that then going into the predictive analytics space where that avatar becomes sort of this number of people and then you're going to just target market to them based on...
It helps a lot. There's a great kind of paper that just dropped this week by my Harvard colleagues, and it's using ChatGPT for market research. So it says, what if instead of asking consumers what they want, we ask ChatGPT what it thinks that consumers want? And because all of us are expressing ourselves so much online, the paper shows that it's actually not that. So you can get a very good first indication. And they always say kind of the first kind of sin of marketing is always assuming that the consumer is like you. That's the first thing. So if these new tools, including AI, help you as a marketer to get away from that one, right? So if I'm digital marketing to a younger audience, for instance, then I'm gonna assume that they're like me on a whole bunch of things that they're not. And so if AI really helps me to kind of get a first idea about, what people are concerned about, I can use that to then kind of get better interview questions when I actually talk to consumers, which I still recommend doing. But I think it's going to save us a lot of time and effort to kind of get at least the main things that we should ask about and make sure that we don't have a huge blind spot in some issues.
Are any of your clients or companies you're working with using that? Like in the way that you just suggested, or should they be?
They're already doing that, and so I find that's just very exciting. I'm always kind of, as professors, as we always have to kind of also put a little question mark around the hype. So last year it was all metaverse. And this year it's all generative AI. Does that mean that it's going to completely kind of obliterate everything? No, it's just one more tool in your arsenal, right? I had the same thing. So newspapers have been around since, 1500? And then when radio came along, there were all these things that newspapers are that, it's all going to be radio. When TV came along, it's, radio is that. I mean, who would not want to be on TV? And so the last 25 years, we heard that TV is that. What we see now with connected TV is that the kind of videos, right, that people love to see, they're still there. They're just less on broadcast TV, which fewer and fewer people are watching. They're just much more on other, mostly digital formats that marketers can really track, which videos are watched for how long, which actions did people take afterwards, to get more measurability in there. But kind of, the kind of rich medium that is TV or that is, podcast, I don't think that completely goes away because we have a next new big thing.
Mm-hmm. It's all additive, right?
It is, yeah.
It's all additive. I know you have a kind of a mission or an approach toward using big data for good. Yeah. Could you tell us about that? Does that link with SDGs or?
thank you so much for that question. So yeah, in a presentation on video I gave for the Journal of Marketing recently, I really talk about kind of the vision of an informed, respected, and inspired consumer. And so most of my academic research is now, helping organizations and companies that are not for profit. And so, they optimize different things. They want donations, or they want awareness, or they want something, they want your time. And that just has been very personally rewarding to me. The other things what I'm doing, I have a huge project on fighting disinformation, which I started in 2016.
We could do a whole episode just on that.
And then we have the whole
important.
kind of privacy and personalization paradox that I find fascinating. On Respected, I'm doing lots of projects now, actually 3 on racial inequities in influencer marketing pay, in advertising. And then on Inspired, I'm doing work on ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And there we find that consumers really respond well to things you do for the environment and social, like treating your employees better, whereas institutional investors are not very much interested in that one. Or they'll look at the costs and actually get your stock price down. They're very much interested in governance. And so we talk about the trade-offs there and what you can better do. But I think that's vision. And so marketing originally developed for profit companies, I would say, but has branched out so much more. We have developed wonderful tools that you can use in these completely not-for-profit and different social fields.
What are some of the clients you're working with?
Oh, so I'll give you a
stuff.
great example of maybe a tool, right? So in privacy and personalization, we have people who do dog pattern research, mostly sociology. And so when they talk about privacy in digital marketing also, they ask people, how much do you care about privacy? So everybody cares a lot. Economists, on the other hand, they use not stated preferences, but they use what they call revealed preference. So what do you do? And so they say, look, people don't care at all about privacy. Because if you have the choice about paying, $10 more for a website and not allowing 3-party cookies versus having it for free, you choose the latter. So there's obviously kind of a difference there. And they advise the government and regulators. One of my colleagues at another university basically said to the FDC, look, we have all of this wonderful research that skipping 3rd-party cookies is bad. Advertisers and publishers will lose money, and we have no good research that show that consumers are hurt. I'm like, well, then we should do the good research. So what is in between? So marketing has developed conjoint analysis. And so it grew from marketing, and it's basically putting you in choice situations. So it's instead of asking you how important is privacy to you and convenience, right? That when you check out, everything is preloaded. How important is price? It actually puts you in choice situations. And from these choice situations figures out how you personally trade off, what the segments are, and what maybe some of the better choices that companies could offer consumers that they could, trade off these different ones. And so personally, for instance, I hate third-party cookies. I hate people following me around the internet. I love one-party cookies because I want my trusted websites to keep my information. And I don't have that choice in some of the social media companies that I'm a consumer at. So I love kind of that this research informs both companies and government, and also not-for-profit organizations that are consumer advocacy groups, to really understand better what they can do.
Yeah, gosh, that's going to be so important, and even more important going forward, because I don't think we all fully realize how much of our information is out there.
I'll give you one quick anecdote. This was in Istanbul, but I was teaching digital marketing, and I was telling the students how much people can figure out just from what you do on Facebook, and all legally, by the way, right? So legally and ethically, I don't know your likes on Facebook, but I can see everything you do with your consumer ID. So we, for instance, had a nice research project on people who are, for instance, a fan of Apple, but then go to the Samsung website to badmouth Samsung. And so how do we know that? Because we see that you have mostly done things on the Apple Facebook site and are very positive about Apple. And then the question is, what should then, Samsung forbid that? And we're like, no, because then people start, your fans start kind of really talk back to the to the bad mouther, and they also then go to the Apple page to continue the discussion. And so overall, it was really good. And so I showed this to the students. I also showed the research of people to claim that they find so many things out about you, right? Who you are, what your sexual orientation is, all of these papers. And I said, well, and I see that none of you 19-year-olds are making use of the privacy settings that Facebook does offer you. And they're like, yeah, we don't really care much. And then I showed them the research the next week. I checked their profiles and they have all activated privacy settings.
Oh,
so just teaching about it gets people to use the tools that they already have to kind of be less nonchalant with what I give.
Because we really just don't know, unless we don't know how much is being collected on us. This is such an excellent episode. We'll have to have you back, and this is really wonderful. To end up, what advice would you give global professionals who are out there, maybe in marketing roles, on maybe the trends of what's coming next, or what they should know?
I mean, what I really should know, and what surprised me getting into this field is there's so many measurement tools, and the lack of measurement and thinking about it before you actually do an expensive campaign. So I always think, look, what you don't measure, you can't really manage. So measurement should not be an afterthought. You should say, okay, we have this big campaign, we think it's going to be fantastic, but we're going to put the tools in place to really answer the questions that we know we will have in the future. And so even if, for instance, something is extremely successful, your boss will ask you to do it more efficient next year. So do we have the tools to say, hey, we can cut that a little bit and we can turn this thing up? And so think about what you need to measure to really kind of, did we get through to consumer? Did we move the needle? But also, did we do that in the most cost-effective way so we have some learning for the next time?
So really a focus on collecting data, using data, analyzing
I completely
data, decision-making. This was wonderful. We'll definitely have to have you back, Koen. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of the podcast. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of International Business Today. If you enjoyed it, please share it with your network. As always, we would love to hear from you.